Hey everybody, it's Julie. Thanks for joining me for some faith art journaling. I'm here in my 100 Days of Bible Promises devotional journal by Shannon Noel and published by Dayspring. And I do have it linked in the description box below. Today is day 71, the day that I'm doing it, and it's about walking by faith. 2 Corinthians 5:7 says, "For we walk by faith, not by sight." And the devotional here talks about how we can't see the world spinning around us, but we know it's happening. We have faith that it's happening. And we can't always see God at work, but we have faith. We can't always see God, but we have faith in Him. It's like that world spinning. We can't see it happening, but we know it's happening. So that's why I am using this globe. This particular stamp set is from Sweet and Sassy Stamps called Send Me, a fun set with lots of different images, and it's just a great set. I'm going to be using this globe and also an arrow. You can see that arrow down in the bottom left of the stamp set. I'll tell you about that a little bit later. But I'm stamping on some cardstock, white cardstock, and I'm using my VersaFine Black Onyx ink. It is my favorite ink because it is permanent. It's a crisp, clear, dark black. It does bleed through Bible pages though, so you either have to prep your pages or deal with it. And let's see here, I wanted to give you a little tip about that stamp chamois that I use to clean my stamps. I like to wet it and then put it in a Ziploc bag while I'm using it. But then in between, if I'm going a day or two between using it, taking it out, or at least leaving that Ziploc bag open so that it doesn't get stinky. So anyway, that's just a tip, one that I learned. So I'm going to be watercoloring my globes here. Now I stamped 2 of them because one I'm going to use for the actual image, and then one I'm going to use to make a tab for the top of my page. So I'm watercoloring these. I'm using a combination of my Jane Davenport. These are, I think, the tropical colors. This set, I love them. And then also some Distress Oxide. This is Faded Jeans, that color. I wanted just some of the really deep blue. And actually, there's a reason why I started that there in the middle using that Distress Oxide, because I was going to be doing some heat embossing on my little paper fastener that I'm going to use to make my world spin. It ends up being a fail, but I'll show you how it worked out at the end. It looked cute at the beginning, but it just all rubbed off. So anyway, that's what it is. So I've painted my globe, used a couple of different blues and greens for the water, and now I'm using some green for the land. I'm using my aqua brush. This one is from Adorn It, but you can get them from various places. I love using these aqua brushes because you have a lot of control, and there's water already in the barrel. And I tell you what, I have a tendency to spill. And so when you're not having to go back and forth to the water bowl, it's very helpful. Sometimes you need that though, and I will be doing that a little bit later because I need lots of water. So I use a very tiny little hole punch and a very tiny paper fastener, and I punch a hole in there. You can see that that paper fastener is blue. That's because I actually heat embossed that with some heat and stick powder and crystal clear powder, embossing powder, and then that blue, the Faded Jeans Distress Oxide ink. Because it has some pigment ink in it, it is embossable, but it didn't last. It rubbed off. So now I'm punching the tab out. I have found, I'm just giving you lots of tips here, use the eraser to line up your image where you want it inside of a tab punch. A punch like that. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I've cut a little piece of the cardstock, punched a hole in it, and then also put that paper fastener through that. So I've got a piece of cardstock behind it, and then the actual world. And that's going to be what I can adhere down so that it can still spin. If you just want to rewind that to see what I did again. So you take a little piece of cardstock and adhere that to the back through the paper fastener. And then that's what I can stick down to my page and make it spin. So that part stays still and the world can spin. Okay, so now let's get to the stamping. I'm masking off my verse, and then I am using Sweet and Sassy Stamps has 3 different sets of textured stamps. And I love these. These are called Texture Tiles 1, 2, and 3, the 3 sets. And I decided I am going to use them all for this particular page. I'm using all the different textures to make a background. Now my thought process here is that I'm making a globe, a world, and it's going to be spinning, so it spins in space, right? And in space, it's all the fiber of space. That's kind of my thought process here. I'm making all these textures and fiber of space and all the dimensions of space. It's kind of being existential here and philosophical, but I just really wanted to use all of these texture stamps too. I had seen an image somewhere that inspired me, and I really can't remember where it was or what it was, but just a bunch of different textures and then a graphic image in the middle of it. So that's what's inspiring me here. So you can see I'm just stamping them in black. You overlap them, you crisscross them. I'm just filling up the whole page. Now each of these sets has 4 different textures to it. There's a variety. Set 2 has like some of your wood grains, your bricks, your pebbles, your bark. And then set 1 has some music, staff, some words, a grid. That's this one right here. Just kind of some speckles. And then 3 is just some, I don't know how to describe that one, just some different kind of textile textures. So it's just really cool. I just keep these on my desk all the time. All 3 of these opened because I'm always grabbing at least 1 or 2 of them for most of my pages just to add some texture to them. They're so much fun. So again, I'm just stamping all of them. You can see I'm overlapping them. I'm cleaning them in between before I put them back on. And it's fun to use these with some color, with some black. Just use these texture stamps however you want to, and you don't even have to have that full image. Sometimes I just pick it up and don't even put it on my block and just hold it, and that way I get just a little bit of that texture on there. So now I'm adding some watercolor. I'm going to color this whole page with watercolor. And again, I'm making it kind of space. So I did color the words and my verse, the prayer at the bottom and the verse up at the top with the pink and yellow. And now I'm doing some concentric circles. This is just to kind of give that same impression that the world is spinning through space. It's not really a galaxy. I'm not going for that look so much, but I am kind of going for that outer space look. I didn't want to put so much effort into it, but I just got those colors. You can see I started light and then went darker outside. So I dried that off screen. It was a very wet page, so it took some time to dry. I did use my heat tool, and I actually ripped my page. You need to be careful when you are using wet pages like that. And I had to fix that with some tape. So now I am going to use another Sweet and Sassy stamp. This set is called Life in Jesus, and I'm using the stamp that says Faith from this particular set because, again, this page is Walking by Faith. That's what it's titled, and so I'm just highlighting that. Now, I stamped it in my Versamark ink, which is an embossing ink. It's a clear, sticky ink. So then I used some white embossing powder, and that powder stuck to the ink. I did prep my page first with my embossing, my EK Success powder tool, just to get rid of any static and oil and things like that, so that the powder didn't stick to anything else. Now with my heat tool, I'm heating that, and the embossing powder, when it looks melted and shiny, that's when you know it's ready. This particular powder is old, and so it didn't work really well. I have since then gotten some new embossing powder, and I'm going to link that kind. The kind I had was old, not available anymore, and that's why I ended up with not a clean impression. So I went back over it a little bit with my white gel pen, and then that wasn't very clear, so I went in the inside of it with my white pit brush marker, my big brush marker. So now I'm stamping. This is another stamp from the Life in Jesus, and it's this little flag, and then on the inside I stamped I choose. So it's going to say I choose faith, because we have to just choose faith. We have to choose to believe even the things that we can't see happening. So I stamped that and I watercolored it. I'm going to cut that out and dry it while I'm drying that, and then I'm going to cut it out further. I did trim it down already. I'm going to use some foam tape to adhere that in a few minutes once that's dry more. Okay, so now I'm using my foam tape. This has just a little bit of dimension to it, so I want it to pop out. So there's my globe. You see how it spins? And now I keep going back and forth between the half of the world up top, or do I want the one that's cut out with the tab punch? I'm going to go ahead and adhere my I choose. Now, a couple of things on this page that I end up changing. I don't think that the globe, the world here, has enough contrast against the blue. I think it just kind of blends in too much. So you won't see it. I don't do it on screen. But in the still shots, you'll be able to come back and see I added 2 arrows, and those were also stamped from the Send Me stamp set. But I stamped those, colored them, and cut them out, and I added them. You'll see them. Right now, I'm doing some dots on the edge of faith because I felt like it needed some bit of outline, but I just did the dots, and that's not working for me. So I go back in later, and I fill in those dots and just make it a solid black outline. I add the tab up at the top, and then I pick a word fetty sticker that says faith. I'm adding some washi tape now. And I outlined the text and then the number up top there so you could see those a little bit better. I wanted to add my date, so I decided to use a sticker flag, and I have that and then all of the products that I've used. I have them listed in the description box below, so you can check those out. I also have a blog post attached to this, so be sure to check that out. I have linked that below. You can see the close-ups of where I added those arrows. I stamped them, fussy cut them, colored them, and then I also outlined the word faith in black. So that just makes it stand out a little bit more. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section. I'll be sure to check those. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks so much, and God bless.